Welcome to Tales of Blue, episode 38. To say my next guest experienced a turbulent time during his 8 seasons at the club would be an understatement, but he remains a popular today with former teammates and fans alike as he was back then. I'm delighted to be joined by the legendary Andy Dibble. How are you doing, Andy?
Good evening, Mark. Yeah, it's lovely to join you.
Thanks for joining us, mate. So, Andy, born in Cardiff, I believe you were a budding left-back before making the switch between the posts.
Yeah, that's right. I started off as a left full-back, and I think the left foot worked well, but the positioning sense of playing at full-back didn't really suit me.
So you switched to goal. You arrive at Main Road during the summer of 1988 via Cardiff and Luton Town, where I think your contract was up. Was there many other clubs in for you at the time, Andy? And when did you first hear of City's interest?
It was an interesting time, really, because obviously we just won the Littlewoods Cup with Luton Town, and I'd had a good end to the season as well. I'd heard of, I didn't really have an agent in them days, but I knew that there was interest from Manchester City just by word and the newspapers. Obviously, when I knew that, my father helped me with the move to Manchester City, and then at the end of the season, I had a phone call from Mel Machin.
So with Luton wanting a reported 750,000, the tribunal sets the fee at 255,000. So did you negotiate the contract yourself, and did you have any dealings direct with the chairman, Peter Swales?
Well, as I said, my father helped me. My father helped me with my contract at Luton as well. So it was pretty straightforward. I know players rely on agents today, but it was brilliant for me because it's such a big club, and I have to say this now, that Joe Corrigan was one of my heroes along with Ray Clements and Peter Shilton. So to come to the Main Road at the time, I know I was going to be playing there in the old stadium, and I know the new stadium's absolutely fantastic. It was a no-brainer for me to come to Manchester.
So City head off for a pre-season tour of Sweden and Norway, I believe. What do you remember of that tour and settling in with the group, Andy?
I always remember the tour as well. I mean, pre-season, it's always interesting when you go to a new club, but there was a lot of new arrivals at the time, so I settled in pretty quickly. Obviously, I could tell how big the club was straight away because the amount of travelling fans over there was huge.
So the debut comes at Hull City on the opening day of the new season. We go down 1-0 despite dominating the game, really. And then we suffer a 4-1 home defeat against Oldham. You wondered what you let yourself in for the first couple of games?
Yeah, it wasn't the best of starts. And I remember after the first 2 games, training at Platt Lane, and people were angry and coming on and giving, obviously, a lot of shouting a little bit of abuse towards the players.
You can express your opinion through a fence then, rather than social media like today.
Yeah, in them days, that's what happened, Mark, as you can imagine. So, but I'd like to think that I'm pretty strong-minded, and you just get on with it. And obviously, we picked up, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I'd say you soon win the City faithful over with some fine displays as Mel Machin's sides hit form. Who were standout characters in that squad, Andy, when you first joined?
Well, Brian Gale became a big friend of mine. Fantastic guy. You could go through the list. I mean, Trevor Morley. We had a really good group of players. Bish, obviously. The list could go on and on, really. I mean, and then you had the young lads, Inchy, obviously, David White, Mouldy. But with every team that gets promotion, you have a good group, and that group was fantastic. It was a mixture of a little bit of experience and youth. Neil McNabb, obviously.
Yeah, very underrated player, Neil McNabb, in his day. Good player.
Yeah, Neil was a fantastic midfielder. I still keep in touch with him now. He lives in America, I believe.
States, yeah. So if I asked you to recall a save from that promotion season, Andy, what springs to mind as straight away? Say, what's a favourite save from that season? Does one jump out?
There's nothing in it that springs to mind, but
you did make some.
the one thing that did spring to my mind, and I'd like to think that there was a lot of good stuff in there, was the disappointment of, and I know you can look at all your great things, but the biggest thing I was disappointed with was when I came off at Crystal Palace at half-time after, I can openly publicly say it now, having an injection in my groin and trying to get through the game. It was it was quite a sad thing for me to know.
That was following on from was it the Warsaw game, Andy? You first had.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
So who would you room with on an away day that first season at the club? And was he a good roommate?
I tended to switch between people. In them days, it was a bit more random. You room with whoever. So I know nowadays the lads have their own rooms.
Yeah.
So we kind of got on with things. You roomed with whoever was there.
So the injury aside, how pleased were you from a personal point of view with your form in that first season?
Yeah, delighted really, and to get promotion in the first year was a fantastic achievement. With a big club, and you really look forward as well to away games. I mean, obviously the home games were massive, but you knew there was going to be a full house every week. But then when you knew you travelled away, you knew it was going to be a brilliant following behind you.
So promotion was secured on the final day of the season at Bradford. You unfortunately miss out that fixture, but you travel with the squad, Andy. What are your memories of that afternoon? A good celebration after?
Just being on the pitch and celebrating with everybody.
So how was Andy Dibble finding life settling into Manchester? Had you moved into the area, I assume?
Sorry, Mark, I missed that.
Well, how was you settling into life in Manchester in that first season? Did you move into the area, Andy?
Yeah, Manchester's been my home since I came up. As you know, obviously I've been back at Cardiff City as goalkeeping coach for the last 6 years, but that came to an end sadly in May. I like to have a double-barreled home really, South Wales and Wilmslow. So Hale, Altrincham. I've had several houses up here, and now obviously I'm back at Accrington Stanley where I'm doing the goalkeeping coaching there.
And you still attend games as and when you can, Andy? You're still quite a regular on a match day at City if you can?
Yeah, it's fantastic coming along to the games. I mean, I came to the Chelsea game, which I thoroughly enjoyed. It was an interesting week that week because I saw Altrincham and Barnet on the Tuesday, Manchester City versus Chelsea on the Wednesday. I know people won't like me saying this, but I went to Old Trafford on the Thursday to watch United and Villa. But I love getting out to games. It's all part of, even though you get older, it's still part of your learning curve to go and see different games of football. So
back in the first division, again, you're showcasing your talents and become a firm fans' favourite. Although you missed 6-week period through injury again. I'll come to the managerial changes at City, but how was Andy Dibble enjoy his football as a first division goalkeeper?
Well, it was an interesting year because obviously we started slowly and then Mel Machin left. Then Howard Kendall takes over and we end up staying up. So I thought my form was good. But then obviously the disappointing goal conceded at Notts Forest wasn't the nicest thing to happen.
I'm sure everybody asked you about that goal, Andy, but what I would ask you about that, the referee, fellow Welshman, Roger Gifford, his name, what did he say about the goal? What was the ref's opinion of it? Did we hear everybody else?
Well, it's interesting because obviously going back to South Wales, I bumped into Roger a lot of times, and I think he was an assessor. I'm not sure if he's still an assessor. But I often have a laugh and a joke with him and said, you'd be off the pitch nowadays, wouldn't you, for ungentlemanly conduct? I said, I set a precedent there. And he just looked at me with kind of sheepish eyes as if to say, I think he was apologising, but didn't want to apologise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So it was to say, Machin leaves around late November time. Did you have a good working relationship with Melvin? He was the guy who brought you to the club?
Say that again, Mark. Sorry, I lost you a little bit then.
With Mel Machin leaves around November time. How was your relationship with Mel, as he was the manager who brought you to City?
Yeah, I had a great relationship with Mel. Yeah, really good guy, really thorough. I was, obviously when a manager goes and signs you, you're disappointed. And then Howard came in, obviously. Got on great with Howard as well. Funnily enough, when he went to Greece, he tried to sign me. So at the time, it was a bit of pill to swallow when the club brought in Tony Coton. Mm-hmm. But then later on, he did try and sign me, God bless him, when he was out in Greece.
Yeah. So he brings in a lot of new faces with him, which, to be fair, we probably needed at the time. We climbed the table. We go to the February the 1st, 1990, and a brilliant win at high-flying Aston Villa. A fantastic game for you, Andy. We win 2-1. What you remember of that afternoon? I think it was a live TV fixture as well.
Yeah, well, that game that evening stays in my memory for a lot of reasons. Obviously, I'd say it was probably my best ever game in a Manchester City shirt, and I did everything I thought I could in my power to keep my place. I knew I was battling against Tony Coton, who was a fantastic goalkeeper and has obviously become a great friend of mine now. And obviously that evening, it was a sad evening for Paul Lake as well, who was going to go on and play for England in my eyes.
This was the following season, wasn't it? That's the Villa home game with Paul you're talking about.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. So did you know, because it was a bit of a surprise to us fans that Tony Coton arrived, like you say, a great goalkeeper, but you were, a fan's favourite and playing well. Did you have an idea he was coming in?
No, I never knew, and it took me completely by surprise, really. You look back on it now, and sometimes I'm not certain. I think, did maybe the Forest incident go against me? But I'll never know, and I'll never find out. And like you said, I'd had a really good season, I thought. So disappointing, but in football you have your ups and your downs, and you have to get on with them.
It was a bit more ruthless back then, Andy, weren't they? The managers, they just did what they did and didn't really have to explain themselves too much, I suppose.
Absolutely, but I'd like to think that I got on with things, and I mean, people always call me a journeyman, but in them days there was no substitute goalkeeper, and I didn't really want to sit and hang about. I went out on loan to different clubs and just got on with it and try and get as many games as I can.
Well, you spend the following season sees you predominantly out on loan. Was it never an option to leave permanently, Andy?
No, not really, because I always thought I could get back in the team at some stage.
I mean, you're back with the first team during the summer of '92. Peter Reid's now the manager, and you suffer a broken leg pre-season on a tour of Ireland. What do you recall of that one? Yeah,
well, the back pass rule had just come in, so the ball had come through on the edge of the box. I'd come out, pass back, didn't know where to pick it. Anyway, I kicked it, and it was a very, very nasty challenge. I mean, I'd love to see that back if I could. And I ended up breaking my leg. So not a nice time, not a nice injury, and a long time out of football.
So 93-94, another change of manager at City. Brian Horton comes in, and you're mainly back up to TC, but do feature. How was your working relationship with Tony? I mean, you're both great goalkeepers.
Well, excellent. I mean, we had a good relationship, as I told you. We still have that now. And we had, on the training ground, it was so competitive. You need that with goalkeepers. And I think it's helped me later on during my coaching career, because there was no bitterness between us, and we got on with things. And he had total respect for me, and I had total respect for him. So
a character arrives at the club at the end of the 94-95 campaign, John Burridge. What do you remember of John? Did you have much dealings with him in his time at City?
Oh, Budgie but what a great man. And I keep in touch with Budgie now as well. I can't speak more highly than any. He was a model professional, and I just heard the stories about Budgie. And the funniest thing was, when we went up to Newcastle, I roomed with Budgie, and people had told me about him, being in. Got to be careful what I say, obviously, but people told me about him being on the bed with his football boots and nothing else on, and his socks, and jumping around the room. And I experienced that, and it is true. I don't want to go into too much detail, but
I think that covers it.
That was John Burridge before a game, but what character! Learned so much from Budgie. He was a fanatical trainer. I'd never seen a guy so fit for his age.
Yeah. I mean, you hear all the stories about Budgie and the characters and the things, but they forget there was a great goalkeeper there as well. He played for many years, Andy, didn't he? John Burridge.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, obviously, was it 44?
It was past 40 anyway.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing achievement that. You won't see that again. Not in the new era.
No. Alan Ball comes in for 95-96, and you feature during pre-season before Ball brings in Ike Immel. What do you remember of that German stopper? And was it an option for you to start the season, Andy?
No, well, I remember we went up to Scotland. I ended up hurting, I think it was my Achilles I hurt. So, I mean, I sometimes look back on my career and I think, okay, I played over 450 league and cup games, but it should be about 650.
Yeah.
And I was unlucky with injuries, and I remember I hurt my Achilles up in Scotland. I came in, I think TC was injured. But again, it was lovely to be alongside a German international who I think had over 50 caps, and learn things from him that, with him coming from Germany, it was different routines that he did, and it was really interesting to be alongside him.
It was tough for him replacing TC, wasn't it? So it was a big job for him to come in and replace Coton, who was popular.
Yes.
So Alan Ball leaves the following September, relegation from the Premier League. City appoint 4 managers before Frank Clark eventually arrives. You appear about 13 times that season, which proves to be your final at the club. What do you recall, Andy, of that crazy spell with the managers coming, goings, and players?
Yeah, it was so difficult for me, and I'd have loved a few more years at the club. Frank was very, very honest. He made it clear from day one that he wanted Tommy right. But sometimes from adversity, I had the most fantastic spells, and I end up with one of the biggest clubs in Europe, in Glasgow Rangers, and end up playing a bit part in their 9-in-a-row success. And to make your debut against Celtic in front of, I think, 58,000 mad Celtic fans, with a small contingent of Ranger fans, it was an amazing experience.
So how does Andy Dibble look back on his time as a City player?
Oh, love every minute. Still love coming back to the club. Things have changed so dramatically, and it's amazing when you come to the stadium now and you see the brand of football they play, and obviously the style of goalkeeping has changed. Playing out from the back, you see goalkeepers receiving the ball in the 6-yard box. So my playing days are gone, and I loved every minute of it. But coming back now and watching gives me such a thrill.
So, Andy, I'm going to ask you a few teaser questions, see if you know the answers. It might jog the memory bank, it might not. So, which former City player scored a hat-trick against you during your main road debut against Oldham?
Roger Palmer.
Correct. How many clean sheets did Andy Dibble keep during his debut 88-89 season?
How many?
Clean sheets.
Oh, God, bloody hell, that's a great question. Excuse my language. I'm going to go 16.
15.
Oh!
How many loan spells away from Main Road did you have?
How many? Sorry, Mark?
How many loan spells away in total did you have?
5.
5. Can you name them?
Bolton Wanderers.
Yep.
West Bromwich Albion.
2.
No, I'm thinking of Glasgow Rangers, but it wasn't. It was an end of contract, wasn't it?
Aberdeen.
Aberdeen and Middlesbrough.
Middlesbrough. And I think you went to Sheffield United, but I don't think you played.
Sheffield United. So that was the 5 then.
Right. You might hate me for this question, Andy, but try this one. Who am I? I was signed by Mel Machin during the 88-89 promotion season, made a debut from the bench at Ipswich, and never played for City again.
Pass.
Bill Williams. He came in from Stockport.
Bill Williams, yeah. Sorry, I know. I remember Bill. I remember Bill. What a great guy.
We never saw him again.
Great question.
Final teaser. John Dean, Nigel Gleghorn, Wayne Biggins and Andy Dibble were joined by which other player during that summer of 1988? Which other player signed? John Dean.
Trevor Morley.
No, it wasn't Trevor Morley. John Dean, Nigel Gleghorn, Wayne Biggins, Andy Dibble. Do you remember that the pre-season, it was the programme cover, all 5 of you featured? You're going to kick yourself.
No, it wasn't Mark Seagraves. No, it wasn't Mark.
He was before.
Go on, pass.
Brian Gale.
Sorry?
Brian Gale.
I mentioned Gailey as well, didn't I?
So a couple of favourites. Favourite teammate?
Yeah.
Favourite City teammate, Andy?
Well, I love them all, but Ian Brightwell has to be one of the most, and David have to be one of the most funniest guys I've ever been with. And there's too many to mention. It'd be easy to say, who didn't you get on with? Because there was nobody I didn't get. I got on with everybody. But Brighty, for me, is a special, special man.
Fantastic. So, favourite City fixture?
Favourite City?
Fixture. Favourite game played in?
I'd have to say the Aston Villa game, even though I didn't retain my place for the next game against Sheffield United, which I was very, very disappointed with. But I can look back on that game with pride and know that I gave everything in the goalkeeping shirt that night, and probably didn't deserve to lose my place.
Absolutely. Favourite manager at City? And there was a few.
Wow. I can't say a bad word about any of them, Mark, and I'm not sitting on the fence. They were all great men, you know, all good managers.
That'll do for me. That's good enough. So, true or false? Gary Megson was the worst dressed player at the club.
Yeah, Mego, what a special guy as well.
So true?
Great character, yeah, no dress sense whatsoever.
True or false? Andy Dibble would often swim during pre-season runs.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. That I came back looking like Rambo, and I think Roy Bailey said to me, "Dibs, where have you been? You've got a massive sweat on." He said, "You're soaking." I said, "Roy," I said, "I got lost round Sale Water Park, and I seen the lads over the other side." I said, "So I just decided to swim through the river to catch them up." But everybody was in hysterics when I came back, and I probably was drenched, you know, going through the water there.
Imagine now walking along and seeing Edison coming out the canal or the other side of the lake. Wouldn't happen today, Andy, would it? So, final true or false question. Wales will go further than England during the Winter World Cup.
Wales to go further.
So true. So what's Andy Dibble of 2022 up to?
Say that again, Mark. Sorry, I lost you then.
What are you up to these days, Andy? What are you involved in?
Yes, obviously I finished at Cardiff City after nearly 6 years in the summer. It was a difficult time for me. Obviously, I didn't want to leave the club. Change of manager, a footballing decision, one of them things that happens. I'd seen myself as part of the furniture there. I left, then I had a little spell up in Scotland with Motherwell, with Graham Alexander. Sadly, Graham got the sack after 6 weeks, and I decided I wanted to come back to Manchester. I had a nice phone call off Accrington Stanley, which is a fantastic club, and they're doing things the right way, and I'm helping out there, gone in as goalkeeping coach.
Fantastic. It's great to see you still in the game, Andy. You're highly thought of by City fans of every age.
Well, if I could have one final wish, it'd be to finish my career at Manchester City, and that'd make me a very happy guy.
Hey, never say never in football. Andy, thanks for taking the time to join us on Tales of Blue, and I wish you all the very best, and best of luck to Wales tonight.
Thanks, Mark. Lovely to talk to you.
Take care, mate.
Thank you.